The moment the cabin door sealed shut, something invisible but heavy settled over the plane. The kind of tension you feel before you understand why your chest is tight. A young black woman stood frozen in the aisle, her boarding pass clenched in her hand, her eyes scanning rows of seats that suddenly all felt like they were closing in on her. What should have been a routine flight turned into a moment that would shake everyone on board and ground the aircraft within minutes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what is right, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from today. Her name was Amara Kingsley, and to the world outside that aircraft, she was a self-made billionaire who had built a global tech empire before the age of 30. But inside that narrow cabin, none of that mattered. She wore a simple beige coat, no jewelry, no entourage, her hair pulled back neatly, blending in like any other tired traveler trying to get home. She had learned long ago that wealth did not shield her from judgment, from assumptions, from being seen before being known. As she reached her assigned seat by the window, she noticed someone already sitting there, relaxed, confident, and completely unbothered by the boarding pass. Amara quietly checked again, just to be sure she was not mistaken. The man occupying her seat was white, well-dressed, and carried himself with the ease of someone used to being accommodated without question. Amara hesitated, not because she was unsure, but because experience had taught her that moments like this could turn sharp very quickly. She stood there longer than necessary, feeling the impatient energy of passengers behind her, the rustle of bags, the sighs, the subtle pressure to not cause a scene. Her heart beat harder. Not from fear, but from the familiar exhaustion of knowing she might have to justify her presence, her right to simply sit where she belonged. As a flight attendant approached, the air seemed to thicken. Amara handed over her boarding pass calmly, her face composed, though inside her thoughts raced. She remembered being a teenage girl with big dreams, riding buses where people clutched their bags tighter when she sat down. She remembered boardrooms where her ideas were ignored until repeated by someone else. This moment felt smaller than those battles, yet somehow heavier, because it was so ordinary, so unnecessary, and so revealing. The situation escalated quietly but firmly. Systems were checked, seat numbers were confirmed, other crew members gathered. The man remained seated, confident that the situation would resolve in his favor, as it always had before. Whispers traveled faster than facts, and eyes began to turn toward Amara, some curious, some judgmental, some sympathetic. She felt exposed, like her dignity was being weighed by strangers who knew nothing about her journey, her sacrifices, or the countless nights she had slept on office floors to build a future no one had handed her. Then something unexpected happened. A senior crew member reviewed the manifest again, and a subtle shift moved through the cabin. Procedures kicked in, serious ones. The aircraft's departure was halted. A compliance issue was flagged, not just about the seat, but about documentation, conduct, and refusal to follow crew instructions. Within seconds, the calm routine of pre-flight announcements was replaced by a tense stillness. The plane was officially grounded until the matter was resolved. Amara remained standing, her posture steady, her silence powerful. She did not raise her voice. She did not demand respect. She simply existed, unwavering, and that quiet strength spoke louder than any confrontation could have. Passengers began to understand that this was not about a seat. It was about entitlement clashing with truth, about assumptions meeting reality, about a woman who had been underestimated one time too many. As security arrived and the man was escorted off the plane, a ripple of realization spread through the cabin. Some passengers looked away in discomfort. Others watched with new awareness. A few nodded subtly in Amara's direction, acknowledging her grace under pressure. She finally took her seat by the window, her hands resting in her lap, her reflection faintly visible in the glass beside the clouds waiting outside. The delay stretched on, but something had shifted. The plane was no longer just a vessel headed to a destination. It had become a shared space where a lesson had been learned, whether people were ready for it or not. Amara gazed out at the runway, thinking about how many times she had been asked to prove herself, how many times she had chosen dignity over outrage. She knew that power did not always look loud or flashy. Sometimes it looked like patience. Sometimes it looked like refusing to shrink. When the plane finally took off, the engines roaring like a release of held breath, Amara felt a quiet sense of peace. Not because justice had been served perfectly, but because she had stayed true to herself. She had not allowed bitterness to take root. She had shown simply by standing her ground that respect is not granted based on appearance, but on humanity. If this story is touching your heart right now, if you've ever felt unseen, underestimated, or quietly strong in the face of unfairness, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let your support be part of something bigger. And before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Comment below and tell us what this moment made you feel, or share a time when you stood firm, even when the world expected you to step aside. As the plane soared above the clouds, Amara closed her eyes, not as a billionaire, not as a symbol, but as a woman who knew her worth. And somewhere between the ground she left behind and the horizon ahead, she smiled, knowing that sometimes the most powerful journeys happen not in the air, but within.